Hey guys, we are here with two awesome moped-style e-bikes, the Ride1UP Revv Hardtail and the Super73 S2. So we're gonna dive into all the details here and figure out which one is the better buy. Let's go take a ride.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Electric Bike Report. I am Griffin Hales.
And I'm John Bozick.
And today, as we put these two awesome moto-style e-bikes together head-to-head, we're gonna start things out similarly to how we think you, a consumer, would, which is we're gonna talk their price, and we're just gonna talk their specs and features and everything you get with the dollar you pay. So I'm gonna start things off with the Ride1UP Revv here. So this bike comes in at an MSRP of just below $1,900. And with that, you're getting a bike that is class 2 or 3 capable. It also has an off-road mode, so it'll ship with 20-mile-per-hour speed limits that can be adjusted up to 28 miles per hour and beyond. You get a nice rear hub motor here, a Bafang 52-volt, 750-watt rear hub motor capable of 95 Newton-meters of torque. The battery is a 52-volt, 15 amp-hour or 780 watt-hour. And then all of this, of course, is actuated by a cadence sensor with 5 different levels of pedal assist. It's a simplified drivetrain, a single speed with a 42-tooth chainring up front. And then for brakes, you get a 4-piston hydraulic disc setup on 203mm rotors from LBN. The fork is 100mm with rebound adjust and hydraulic lockout. And then you get these Kenda Crusade tires. They are 20 by 4 inches with a little bit of knobby tread for off-road duties. In the center of the handlebars, you have a large black and white display, and then the bike altogether weighs 84 pounds, or if you were to take the battery out, just under 76 pounds. It has a very impressive 400-pound payload capacity, meaning you could take 2 adults on it, and then you get a nice amount of extras included, such as the alloy fenders, the large headlight and large tail light that has brake light, and of course a twist grip throttle, and I also really appreciated the alloy wheels as well. So that is everything that you get standard for the Revv, but John, please take us through the Super73.
For sure, yeah, the S2 has a lot of similarities with the Revv, but also quite a few differences as well. Starting off with that MSRP, the S2 is going for right around $3,300. It is also a class 2 when it gets to you with throttle and pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour, but it can be adjusted to a class 1, a class 3, and it does offer an off-road mode as well. It's powered by a 48-volt, 750-watt rear hub motor. A little bit less information on that on the Super73 website, but you know, performs pretty well for its size. The battery is a 20 amp hour or 960 watt hour unit. The bike uses a cadence sensor to engage. It offers 4 levels of pedal assist. There's a single speed drivetrain here as well with a 36-tooth chainring and a 16-tooth cog on the freewheel. We have hydraulic disc brakes as well. This is the Tektro E350 system. This uses 2-piston calipers on 180mm rotors. And then there's an air suspension up front with 140mm of travel on the dual crown fork. We've got a little bit different tires. The Super73 branded 20-inch tires. They're 4.5 width on the front and 5-inch width on the rear. There is a sort of minimal display here, a little unit on the left handlebar that is also a black and white screen, but it is Bluetooth enabled, so it pairs to the Super73 app, and that's where you can do those class and speed adjustments that I mentioned earlier. The weight here with the battery is about 75 pounds, but without the battery, that goes down to about 64. And the payload capacity there of the bike itself is 325 pounds. And we appreciated seeing a few things added in. There's a thumb throttle instead of the twist throttle. There's a chain guard to help keep your pants clean. We've got a headlight and an integrated tail light with brake light functionality, as well as a full coverage plastic fender on the rear wheel with kind of a half fender up front that reminds me a little bit of what you'd see on a dirt bike. But with sort of the full list covered between both bikes, let's kind of go back to talk about some of the major components that we noticed differences between. First off, the motors there. The fact that the Rev1 has a 52 volt system is very key here. That allows it to just really draw power from the battery a little bit faster. So it has more available power to use, and we really felt like it seemed a little bit punchier out of the gate, even in Class 2, Class 3 mode. The Super 73 did seem to come alive a lot more once we opened it up into off-road mode, but it was a little bit more toned down in the Class 2 and Class 3 settings. But what about those brakes?
And then the brakes were another thing that kind of stood out to us, especially kind of on the Ride1UP Revv here, you get a 4-piston 203mm setup, which is really nice to see. I actually appreciate seeing that on these heavier moto-styled e-bikes. 85 pounds is a lot for a bike, so a larger setup is nice. But Super 73 also went with the Tektro E350 system, which is maybe the most tried and true of anything that we've had come through our doors. Any e-bike that would kind of fall under like the realm of entry level to mid level, like 80% of them it feels like seem to come with the E350 setup. It's a pretty good one there as well. So overall, decent brakes on either end. And then I think the tires were the other thing that maybe stood out the most to us in terms of the differences there on those bikes.
Definitely the Kenda tires in the Rev1, totally great. We like those tires. The off-road tread gives you some flexibility there and where you can ride. And with 4-inch width, they're nice and stable. You're not missing out on anything there. But with the S2, you get a little bit extra with that 5-inch width on the rear and the 4.5-inch in the front. Just felt like there was a little bit of added stability and added traction with that. And I think that among a few other things did make some differences in our testing. So let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit deeper and talk about our tests and how each bike performed in those tests. All right, we are starting things off with our hill test, which if you've seen the channel before, you know that we take every e-bike to an infamous hill called Hellhole Trail, and that is about 1/3 of a mile long, and it has a super steep average grade of about 12%. So we took the Rev1 and the S2 there, and we tested both their throttle and their pedal assist system in max power. So with the Rev1, that was PAS5, and with the S2, that was PAS4. But we had both bikes in their standard Class 2 settings. So let's go take a look at the footage and see how the tests turned out.
We are now on the Ride1UP Revv1. This is their hardtail version on this moped style e-bike. We're gonna see how it does. It's so far climbing pretty good, right about 14, held pretty strong right around 14 miles an hour through that first section, down to 13, high 12s, 12.4, so 11, probably about 11.6 was the lowest through that first section. The motor does have a little bit of whine to it, nothing out of the ordinary. I'd say it's kind of right around average. I'll let you listen to it on this next section through the steep, punchy hill. So I held the speed really nice, so down to 12 miles per hour. Other than being crazy comfortable, it's just kind of fun to, throttle around. I'm curious to see if there's any difference between this and the full suspension model on the results and how it compares to other kind of moped style bikes. So let's go to the tape and see how it does. Okay, we are on the Rev1 pedal test now. Moped style e-bike, not a pedal bike. So I kind of judge it by how easy it is for me to pedal. So I'm pedaling very soft. I'm not pushing much on this. You don't get leg extension at all. So seeing if the motor's powerful enough to get me up without doing much. So through that section, it only dipped about 12.6. So really powerful feeling so far. You can hear the motor about the same on throttle. So there is some noise there. We'll see how it does through the last punchy climb. I'll let you listen. So, blew through that section, 13.6 miles per hour. Again, I'm just soft pedaling, kind of moving the pedals is all. And so yeah, if you do want to pedal instead of just throttle, these results are gonna be pretty good. Again, curious to see how this compares against the full suspension model, but overall, great result. All right, we're at Hellhole with the Super73 S2, the 750 watt rear hub motor, doing the throttle test. And traditionally, these kind of moped style e-bikes do fairly good, so we'll see how we're doing. You have just the small display up here on the left where it shows the speed. So far, down to about 5 miles, 4 miles per hour, 3. See if this makes it. Gonna be honest, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Just these bikes aren't really what I would consider a pedal bike, and so a lot of times they will kind of put a decent amount of power in that throttle. So we're down to 2. I think if we can get through this section, come on baby, we might make it. I don't know. It kind of feels like there's a decent amount of low end torque there that's just going to kind of keep me going. Let's get through this next section. I'll kind of be quiet here so you can hear the motor as it speeds up as we pass this family up here. So yeah, at these lower speeds, the motor has kind of that lower grinding sound to it. This section here is going to be the test. So got me back up to 8. And I am on, just double checked, I am on turbo. Oh, come on, baby. Come on. Ooh. So back down to 2, but it just kind of keeps going there. Yeah, I think we're going to be good. So got down to 2 miles an hour through that section. It's not going to be the fastest one up this hill. A little surprising to me. Like I said, when you kind of think Super 73, you just kind of get this like motorcycle feeling to you. So maybe they tuned it down a little bit just to be a little safer, given how many kids are on that, which I, again, wouldn't necessarily nobody does that. So as we get up to the top, let's see what that motor sounds like. So yeah, again, a little bit louder as we gain some speed. And let's go to the tape and see how we did. Okay, we're back on the Super 73, doing the pedal test now of Hellhole. And kind of coming in before the hill, did start to ghost pedal a little bit on PS4. So this is a single gear, so I'm assuming they geared it so you can still kind of climb a hill. So far, I'm not pedaling very hard. Getting down to 5, 4. Oh, this is getting tough. I'm gonna have to stand. Let's see here. Yeah, these bikes aren't really pedal bikes. I'm gonna have to call it. So that's the first, one of the first bikes that hasn't, especially moped style, that haven't made it up on the pedal. So I'm gonna do this one again and just see if I can get a little more speed into it and make it up, but I'm not sure it's going to. So yeah, kind of surprising. So I'm gonna do this again and see where it's at. Okay, so now I'm on take 2 of the pedal test. I'm gonna try to keep the cadence a little bit higher here. So I'm not necessarily pushing hard, I'm just trying to speed up those pedals. Sometimes that'll kind of, if you don't have the right cadence, you just don't get quite the power you need. And I have a feeling that was the case with this one, because I'm already farther. Down to about 9, 10 miles per hour, 8. I'm having to push a little bit here, which is kind of awkward, given it's a moped style. Can do it, but if I was not testing this, I'd kick on the throttle right now and help me out. So I'm going to try to get some speed here before this last section and get that cadence back up. So yeah, I'm going to make it up now. This is the first time where I just kind of soft pedaled like I do typically do on like a rear hub, my cadence sensor like this. So you can see I'm breathing a little bit harder because I did have to push more than I normally do on a moped bike. Usually you kind of want these powered to where if I'm pedaling, I'm not pushing much just because I have no leg extension. These aren't really pedal bikes, they're definitely more throttle bikes. So yeah, so there it is. Let's see how we did.
All right, so obviously both bikes made it to the top. The Rev 1 came in on its throttle with 1 minute and 14 seconds from the bottom to the top of the hill and kept an average of 14.7 miles per hour. The S2 was a little bit slower there with a time of 2 minutes and 29 seconds and 7.3 miles per hour on average. But things changed a lot when we got to the pedal test. The Rev 1 came in a little bit faster, 1 minute and 9 seconds with 15.7 miles per hour, and the Super 73 did a lot better with 1 minute and 28 seconds and an average of 12.3 miles per hour. So Griffin, what do you think about that?
I mean, overall, it's kind of interesting to see what these two do when you put them head to head. I mean, not all 750 watt motors are created equal, even though we often focus on wattage, I think, when we're looking at e-bikes. Kudos to both of them for making it to the top, but I mean, clearly like the Rev 1 just, it got to the top faster. I mean, you can see that in the data. But what I thought was really interesting was to see how much of a difference it makes when you're pedaling on the when you're pedaling on the Super 73 as opposed to the Rev 1. The Rev 1, you're getting nearly identical results either way, but you shave a whole minute off on the Super 73 when you are pedaling. And it's not like you're putting in a huge effort on that cadence sensor system anyway. So I think if you are someone looking to buy the S2 here, you would want to definitely pedal going up steeper hills. It's a little bit tough because moto style e-bikes like this, they're not the most pedal friendly, I would say. But again, it's not a huge effort required, it just seems to get a little bit more out of the motor if you're doing that, so.
Definitely, and I think that that's made a lot easier by the fact that both bikes use a cadence sensor, so you don't really have to put in a ton of work no matter what. But the Rev 1, the motor there seemed to have a big difference over the S2's motor, kind of coming back to that voltage. Now we do know what the torque is on the Rev 1 with the 95 Newton meters. The S2, we don't have that data, but we know that the Super 73, the motor there is a 48 volt, but the 52 volt on the Rev 1, that just clearly made a big difference. We've tested a ton of different bikes in different categories and with the same nominal wattage output, but the 52 volt systems always win out. So I think that really made a big difference here. And ultimately, the Rev 1 can do it, the Super 73 can do it, but just a little bit of a difference in how you might approach hills with each bike.
A crucial consideration for any e-bike buyer is the amount of range you can expect from your ride. So to help with that, we have ran multiple range tests for both of these bikes, both in their maximum pedal assist settings and their minimum pedal assist settings. So starting things out with the Super 73 S2 with its 960 watt-hour battery, we were able to go 29.5 miles on our max pedal assistance test and 50.4 miles on the minimum test. Now moving over to the Rev 1 side of things with its 780 watt-hour battery, we had a result of 33.6 miles in the max power test and then 44 miles even in the minimum power test. For both of those bikes, I'm actually pretty happy with their overall range. I mean, this is like a heavier style of e-bike. They're not typically known as the most efficient, so I think those are actually pretty good values overall. But I would say it was just a little bit surprising on this test, just given both bikes and their different battery capacities and the range results we ended up with. So maybe walk us through a little bit of some of the details on the Rev 1.
Sure, yeah, there were definitely some interesting elements there. Number one, the Rev 1 has the lower capacity battery, but it has, number two, that higher voltage motor. So with that, it was gonna be burning through power a little bit faster. And I think that was most interesting in the max PAS test. So with both bikes being class 2s and having that 20 mile per hour limit, they're gonna be going about the same speed, but with the Rev 1 and its 52 volt system, we actually got a little bit better distance, and obviously that was way better than we expected. So kind of the similar thing with the low PAS test. We were actually going a little bit faster there, again, because of that voltage. And I don't really, think the mileage difference there is really too noticeable. I think, we did pretty well, a little better than we expected.
Yeah, pretty quick on the 44 miles of that lower test for sure. And then for the Super 73, the S2, again, like 30 to 50 miles, like that's very good range. I'm pretty happy with that. And of course, of all of the 4 different tests, it has the furthest distance traveled with that 50.4 low PAS result. So a lot to be happy about there. I do think I was a little bit surprised initially to see the 960 watt hours did not have significantly better results than the 780 watt hour capacity of the Rev 1. But again, at the end of the day, I think, you know, either bike you're getting good mileage. So if you're okay with going a little bit slower, you're going to get a little bit further on the Super 73 side of things. But if you want maybe a little bit better of a blend of speed and distance, you know, the Rev 1 seems to have, you know, produced a pretty compelling result there.
I completely agree. Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up for range, but let's go ahead now and take a look at how these bikes do in our speed test.
All right, so now we are going to take you out for our speed test on both bikes, where we rode in Class 2 and Class 3 modes. We recorded basically our maximum speeds in each PAS setting. So let's go see how the tests went, and then we'll kind of wrap things up back here again shortly. All right, we are here on the Super 73 S2 to do a Class 2 speed test. Going here with no help from the motor, kind of between 6.5, 7 miles per hour. These moped style bikes are definitely not easy to pedal, and you add in a single speed drivetrain and that definitely becomes a little bit more difficult. Oh hey, look, 7.5. So I'm gonna kind of go back and forth between the bikes display and the app here, just because the bikes display does not include tenths of a mile per hour. So let's go up to PAS 1 and see what happens. I'm going to be kind of soft pedaling here just to see really what difference the PAS settings make with the cadence sensor here. Pretty subtle, you know, definitely 100% easier to pedal though. Not that anyone's really going to be doing that, but you know, we're getting a difference in speed here for sure. Up around 9.5 miles per hour or so. Okay, let's go up to PAS 2. And that doesn't really feel a whole lot different. I think we're just kind of steadily building a little bit more. Obviously getting more speed, so that's good. It doesn't really feel a whole lot different though. So yeah, let's see, getting up around 11.5, maybe 12-ish miles per hour. So let's go up to PAS 3. Definitely feel power there. That gave a little bit of a kick, which is kind of what you want. All right, we're still building here, a little bit slow. And I'm kind of spinning the pedals fast, but I'm not really adding to the ride at all. I'm just, I mean, at this point, kind of ghost pedaling. So, let's see, still building a little bit. All right, landing kind of around 16.5 or 17 miles per hour there. So let's go up to PAS 4, give it all she's got. Definitely feeling that. Again, that's what you want. So interesting thing here where we're topping out at 20 by the app, but the bike's display is showing 21. So, all right, we'll call that our speed test on the Class 2 speed test on the Super 73 S2. All right, we are back on the Super 73 S2 for a Class 3 speed test this time. And let me get my level of effort kind of dialed in here. It's cruising to about 7 miles per hour before, so somewhere between 7 and 7.5 with no help from the motor. Let's see what PAS 1 does. Again, pretty subtle here. Not adding a whole lot to the ride, but definitely easier to pedal. And gonna land kind of here right around 9.5. Let's go to PAS 2. And, you know, not a whole lot of difference there, but obviously, again, picking up some speed. And seems like we're kind of topping off around 11.5. Let's go to PAS 3. And again, definitely feeling a lot more power there than in the previous two settings. And I'm going to sort of relax into the ghost pedaling now. I'm noticing that this setting does sort of build relatively slowly. So still picking up some speed. Over 16. Over 17. I think I'm gonna have to get around these folks in the bend up ahead before we get a solid reading, but in any case, on your left. There we go. All right, so we are actually up towards 20 in PAS3. Maybe a little over, actually, 20 and a half or so. All right, let's go up to PS4 for all she's got. Definitely feeling lots of power there now. Getting up to about 25. 26. All right, looks like we're landing kind of around 26, maybe 26 and a half. I do have about half the battery charge depleted, so if you're going with a full charge, you might be able to get up towards 28, but we'll call that our speed test for the Super73 S2. Okay, we are here on the Super73 S2 to do a throttle acceleration test from 0 to 20. I've noticed that it actually does go up to about 22, but we're going to stop that at 20, and we're going to go by the bike's display here. So starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Again, like that it's not super punchy out of the gate, but it does build pretty fast here. 18, 20.
This is the Class 2 speed test for the Revv1 HT. Right now I can feel the weight of the e-bike. I mean, it's definitely a heavier ride. Just going about 9.5 miles per hour right now, but we'll pick that motor on and see what happens. Moving to pedal assist 1, you can hear it wake up and just start humming to life. Gives a nice bit of acceleration here in the first pedal assist level. Not abrupt, not jarring in any way, and just kind of helps you slowly build and climb upwards of just about 15 miles per hour. I don't have any gearing. It's a single speed e-bike, and I'm barely pushing on the pedals, just basically keeping that cadence sensor activated. About 15.2 miles per hour, moving up into PAS2 now. And as you can see, it's rushing ahead all the way up to 19.3 miles per hour. Slowing down a little bit. Let's go ahead and pick it into PAS3. It's kind of more of the same, giving me a little bit more juice. You can kind of see the power readout on the display there. Now I've already hit the 20.2 mile per hour limit, so I mean, nowhere else to go. It's gonna get pretty flat from here on out. Just kind of straddle that 20 mile per hour line as it's sticking to the Class 2 speeds. So yeah, Class 4, Class 5, everything's topping out around the same spot, 20.1 miles per hour. So a little bit different in acceleration, I think, if you're kind of like from a slower stop, but as you can see, I mean, PS2 through 5, not a ton of difference, but let's see how the speeds translate in Class 3 settings. All right, we're gonna do this again now in Class 3 speed settings, see how quickly this thing can run. Move it up into PAS1. Kind of similar experience there. The motor has about a half a second delay or so that kicked that up into the first level, but very gradual assist, good amount of push from the rear hub motor. And once again, straddling a similar line up to about 15.2, 15.3 miles per hour. Moving over into PAS2 now. I mean, there's definitely like some noise to it. You can hear it get a little bit louder as you start going faster, but I think it's going to make some really light work. Up to 19.6 miles per hour. See what PS3 is like now. We are off and running, and I mean, it's an absolute blast. So upwards of 23.8 miles per hour. Into 24.5. Moving to PS4, I mean, we're doing 26 without breaking any. I mean, this is just 27.6. Moving up one last time, PS5. As you see, we're hitting and holding 28, 28.3. No problem at all, giving us full motor power. And that was fast. For context, usually on the same speed course, I usually have to slow down before I can even hit PAS5, but I was already zooming right through it before we hit there. I mean, this bike's got some serious acceleration and serious speeds in Class 3 levels, and it is a whole lot of fun. But let's talk more about that in studio. All right, this is the 0 to 20 throttle test on the Rev 1. On your mark, get set, go. I mean, acceleration is pretty rapid. And 20. Yeah, that's pretty quick.
All right, so we showed you both Class 2 and Class 3 modes, but we're gonna primarily talk about the Class 3 data because we just feel like most people are gonna be wanting to ride these bikes in that setting. So with the S2 riding with no help from the motor, I hit 7.7 miles per hour. PAS1 brought me up to 9.4 miles per hour. PAS2 was 11.5. PAS3 was 20.8, and then in PAS4 I hit 26.2 miles per hour. So kind of, if we look at those on a graph, we kind of have a high and a low setting in both a high and a low setting, if that makes sense, where, you know, if you really want to go fast, you can be super fast or a little bit moderately fast, and if you want to go a little slower, kind of the same thing. And then, you know, the Class 2 speeds kind of reflected the same pattern. But how did things look on the Rev 1?
And then over on the Rev, I mean, pedaling around 9.8 miles per, or 9.6 miles per hour, excuse me. Bit of a slog, not a lot of fun to pedal without motor help, but man alive, as soon as you kick that motor on, makes a world of difference. You jump up to 15.3 miles per hour, and then in PAS2 you're going 19.6. You get another good sized jump up to PS3's 24.5 mile per hour limit, and then 27.3 and 28.3 miles per hour to round things off in the final two settings. I mean, it's just an absolutely fast bike. There's just no other way to put it. It is, when you kind of buy a bike that looks like a motorcycle, you kind of have certain expectations, and the Rev 1 absolutely delivers on it in terms of its speed. I mean, that PAS1 15.3 mile per hour result, we've tested a lot of bikes that don't even hit that in like their third or fourth setting sometimes, so that's an absolute screaming, like, good ride. Overall, it's pretty impressive, I'd say. But
I feel like the S2, you know, came in looking a little bit toned down here, and, you know, we did feel that, but in its off-road mode, I think it did match the Rev 1 pretty closely. But I think that our data kind of shows that if you know, want just nothing but blazing speed out of the gate, that the Rev 1 is probably what you're looking for. But if you want a little bit more control over your settings, then the S2 might be a better option.
Mm-hmm. So for our final test, it is the brake test. Now what we do is we bring these bikes up to 20 miles per hour, stop, and then measure the distance it takes to stop. We do it 3 times each for an average stopping distance, and then we just kind of take a look at those results. So on the Rev 1 with its 4-piston LBN hydraulic system, it was able to stop in 22 feet and 10 inches. Overall, I'd say a pretty average result, all things considered. And then over on the Super73 S2 side of things, it was able to stop in 19 feet and 4 inches, which was actually a very good result off of that Tektro E350 system, the 2 pistons with 180 millimeter rotors. So I feel like this was a kind of a bit of a surprise in terms of the overall testing, just based off the expectations from the spec sheet. Both fairly good, but I don't know. What did you think overall of the brake test results?
So, I mean, obviously the S2 had a little bit of an advantage there, and I think that there's a couple things that came into play with that. But, you know, I think there was one thing working against the Rev 1, and that was just its weight. It's a much heavier bike than the S2, but the S2, you know, a little bit more of a well-known brand with those Tektro brakes. But also on top of that, we had the wider tires with a street tread pattern. So I really think that those were able to offer, you know, a little bit more grip when we were coming to a halt there.
Yeah, definitely. And while, I mean, there is a difference in just the overall like stopping distance, obviously, I'd say that both of them are pretty good and reliable brake systems for day in, day out usage. And just in terms of feel, I mean, they both feel pretty comfortable. There wasn't any like crazy fishtailing or anything like that. So, I mean, overall, 73 performed a little bit better, stopped you a little bit sooner, but I think both are pretty good here, I'd say. So.
Totally agree, yep.
All right, so now that we've kind of talked about the spec, we have shown you the testing data, we have now arrived at the point where we are going to hand out winners of the 6 different categories that we have drawn up, because we want this to be helpful for you if you are trying to decide between these 2 bikes. Just always bear in mind that when we pick one over the other, it's not to say one is good and one is bad. In almost every example here, it's going to be we like this one a little bit more than we like the other ones. So starting things off, let's kind of go ahead and just take a look at the specs again. I'm going to be making the case for the Revv 1 here. I mean, it's got a very impressive and compelling spec package. It's got everything on this type of style of bike that you would hope to see. That 750 watt Bafang motor, it is fast, it climbs hills well, and I really just love all the things that they deck this out with, from the 4-piston brakes to the, you know, the battery proved to be actually surprisingly efficient. And then I think Ride1UP really nails some of like the things on the outer edge of the trimmings. I like the alloy wheels, the full metal fenders, and of course, you know, the big old headlight and the very large tail light too. I mean, it adds to the look and to the safety. So for me, I just think it's a really good overall package that you get for specs and features when it comes to the Revv 1.
That is undeniable. I do think that the Super 73 offers a lot though. I mean, primarily, I think one of the things that really stood out to us in our testing and some of the test results were those tires with the extra width of the 5-inch on the back and 4.5-inch on the front. You know, extra grip, extra stability, just kind of gave the bike a little bit better handling. But we also really liked the suspension fork that had, you know, a lot of extra squish to it. And plus it was an air and oil fork instead of just a spring. But then the battery as well, you know, you end up with 960 watt hours of capacity over the 780 of the Revv 1. So there's definitely a big difference there. But that said, we did give this award to the Revv 1. Bottom line, when we, you know, picked out things on the list, there were just more items on the side of the Revv 1. So Super 73 did great, but let's talk about the motor next. What do you think about that?
So as far as the motor goes, I mean, we broke this down into two different categories, and we're gonna start with speed, engagement, and power. I'll start with the Super 73 here. I mean, it is a bike that I think it's got an appreciable amount of control over your speed. I like that you have kind of 2 slower settings than 2 faster settings across Class 2 and Class 3. That's really nice. I mean, in terms of the motor engagement, it kicks on pretty quickly, I would say, overall. And, you know, if you are the type of person, hey, if you put that in the right setting and you put it into off-road mode, I mean, that thing is a bat out of hell and can just flat out fly, and it is a blast for sure.
Yeah, the Revv 1 though, I mean, man, that 52 volt system just eats power and spits out speed across the board. And I think that really when you're looking at a moped style bike, that is kind of what you're anticipating. So, I mean, that's why we ended up giving the award to the Revv 1, specifically for that reason. But in terms of hill climbing ability, that's a totally separate thing. And, you know, the Super 73 ended up a little bit behind the Revv 1, but I think that you know, pedaling the bike, there wasn't a whole lot of difference there, and then ultimately it still made it to the top in both tests, which is very commendable. Yeah,
definitely. And then for the Revv 1, I mean, I think the data speaks for itself there. I mean, it was the fastest up the hill on both in the throttle test by a large margin. And then still had a decent amount of extra speed in the pedal test as well. With this type of styling and bike, I think you kind of have certain expectations, and zooming to the top of the hill is one of them, and the Revv can definitely deliver on that. So for that particular category, we again went with the Revv here, just that overall ability to get to the top a little bit quicker. At the end of the day, it's just great. I mean, simply put. Now let's move on to range. So range was one of those very, very hotly contested races till the end, I think. I'll start with the case for the S2. I mean, 4 different range tests across these 2 bikes, and the one that went the furthest is the S2. I mean, that 50-mile result speaks for itself. You can go the furthest on that 960 watt-hour battery. It's a little bit of a slower pace, but you know, some people, hey, they got long round trips they have to make, and having something that goes a little bit further between charges is going to matter a lot. So I think that does make a compelling argument for the S2.
I can't deny that at all. You know, greater distance, some people are looking for that. But with the Revv 1, you know, we noticed that it was pretty efficient, and that there wasn't a ton of difference even when using the minimum amount of power there. Plus, you're traveling faster on the Revv 1, so, you know, we had to give the award to that bike in this test.
I was gonna say neck and neck, kind of narrowly edged it out, and some of you might disagree with us. Let us know in the comments, you know, like what matters to you, if it's the overall range or the speed traveling at that range. But
For sure.
Now let's move on and talk a little bit about ride quality. This was another kind of a close call, and I'll take the Revv one on this. When we're talking quality, that can be a bunch of different things, but largely it's going to be like just the comfort, just the overall feel, like how does it all ride, you know, beneath you. And I think the Revv one does really, really good in this regard. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of comfort. That padded saddle, it's thick, it's plush. The suspension, while it's not the same league as the air and oil fork, I mean, that 100 millimeters of travel, it's still good for, you know, how much you have to like use it. And just the fact that, you know, like that higher 400-pound payload capacity, you can get a passenger attachment for this bike, throw someone on. You know, quality for me goes up when I'm able to take my wife along too. So I think that all adds up in the Revv's favor.
I completely understand, agree with that. I mean, I think we kind of dialed in on different elements of each bike for this portion of the awards. With the Super 73, I think one of the biggest things that stood out to us was its sort of comfort and pedal ability. You know, that is not something that you typically get, you know, that's made easy by this style of bike. But being a little bit narrower up front on the Super 73, we just found that a little bit more comfortable over long rides and a little bit easier to pedal if or when you choose to do that. But again, you know, great suspension, you know, comfortable saddle, comfortable grips, just all around, you know, it's good. So bottom line here, we couldn't agree on a winner on this one.
We kind of decided behind the scenes that we were only going to split one award because there were so many we wanted to split. So this is the one that we did end up splitting.
Yep.
I like the handling and the tires a little bit more on the Super 73. I think, you know, the saddle over here and just some of the setup is a little bit better on the Revv one. So we're kind of split down the middle on that one. Both of them are going to take the award for that.
Last thing we're going to talk about here, though, is value for the money. I mean, we talked about the MSRPs, we talked about performance and everything. So, you know, I mean, just going down this list, I'll take the Revv this time. We've got a winner on the Revv side in pretty much every category, and that even includes a lower price point with its price of just under $1,900. I mean, you're looking at an awesome bike for the money that really does check all the boxes.
I mean, Ride1UP is definitely known as kind of like a brand that prides itself on offering value for the money. But to make the case for the Super 73 here, I mean, there is a lot that you get on this bike. While it does have the higher price tag, like, I mean, it's got the better fork. I would argue that's got the better tires. It does have certain elements of it, a larger battery, for example, like that. It just has the advantage over it. And then, of course, you know, the Super 73. It dabbles exclusively in this style of bike, and some people do place a higher value on that, knowing that they're getting a bike from a brand that really knows the moped styling. Sure. So that kind of factors into it as well. But, you know, for this category, we had to give the award ultimately to the Revv one, just because while there is a lot of good points for the Super 73, just that price difference alone, $1,900 versus that $3,300 of the Super 73, there's just probably better value inherently from the Revv one. So ultimately, those are our picks for those different categories. But again, let us know in the comments down below just kind of what you're thinking and what awards you would give the different bikes. All right, so now that we have gone through all of the head-to-head and all of the testing, we are at the most important question, which is which one should you buy? And for us, as we kind of really took a step back and looked at these two bikes, I feel like more people are gonna end up buying the Revv one. It's got undeniably great performance, and the fact that it is about $1,400 less than the S2 is definitely going to just have broader appeal anyway. So I think a lot of people are gonna gravitate towards the Revv one, but I mean the S2, don't get me wrong, it is still a very fun, very compelling ride.
Yeah, I mean, the things that really stood out to me that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate, you know, number one, I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of difference in feel if you live in a place where you can unlock the S2 to its off-road mode. It has a little bit of a larger battery, so you know, you can get a little bit more range out of it if you don't mind traveling a little bit slower. And if you're choosing to pedal it, it is definitely a winner there. Again, not a feature that you typically get with this style of bike. But, you know, I'd say the biggest thing is just the name recognition. Super 73 is the brand known for this style of bike, and, you know, with that sort of name brand, there just comes something a little bit extra that you don't get elsewhere.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, though, I feel like, you know, if if it's not the name brand recognition and you're a little bit hungrier for the performance, just the overall value you're getting, the Ride1UP Revv 1 hardtail here is just going to be undeniably appealing. And I think a lot of people are going to appreciate just its look, its feel, and just everything that I can do. It's going to be every bit the moped, motorcycle looking ride that you're hoping for,
sure.
And then some. But that's going to do it for us today in this comparison of the Revv 1 and the S2. Please let us know any questions or comments that you might have down in the comment section below. And of course, you can find our full detailed reviews for each of these bikes in the video description, as well as links to their current pricing. And if you click on those links, it does help support our channel here at Electric Bike Report. But that's going to do it for us today. I am Griffin Hales.
I'm John Bozick. Don't forget to subscribe as well, and we'll catch you next time here at Electric Bike Report.